So good morning and welcome to my first GT3 track day of the year, mostly because the track season's just starting, secondly because the weather's been diabolical. I say it's the first GT3 track day because I've been doing some testing in the Caterham, albeit it was at Silverstone last time, and honestly it was actually like driving in a tsunami. I was in the middle of Storm Dennis at the time, and in the peripheral vision I could see this nice swell of water in the passenger side footwell. Today the sun is remarkably out. We're in a car with a windscreen and a roof, imagine that, and I've just had some brand new ceramic brake pads fitted to the car. I shall run you through the condition. I've got the old pads, what the condition of the pads look like after 7 substantial track days, and yeah, and then we'll take you as always on a ride around Silverstone in the GT3. So one of the first things you have to do before you go out on track is make sure that your towing eye is fitted to the car. And if I can just, yeah, good job I didn't cut my nails last night. It's always located here. If you don't fit this in first, this is really substantially heavy screw thread, and you have to try and find this, and it's way in there, and you have to try and find this thread. Now, forgive me, any of you track day veterans out there who are watching this and know all about the basics of track day etiquette, but not everyone is fortunate enough to go on a track day. So today I thought I would share with you the ins and outs of what you have to do on a track day. So if you were to get to the end of the pit lane and you weren't to have that installed on the front of your car, you'd get rejected from going out on track, because if you were to stick it in the gravel, or in a worst case scenario in the barrier, and you couldn't tow it out, you basically ruin the fun for everyone else who has paid to have a nice track day until they've managed to drag your ass out. So that's why you need one of those there. So oftentimes, if you manage to get to the garage early enough, you can be the first person in the pit lane. You also have the responsibility of opening the door and, most importantly, securing it so that it doesn't fall on any disproportionately expensive supercars. Okay, let me share something with you. So these are my old brake pads. So the car is now approaching 20,000 miles. I really do, when I say I use this as a daily driver, I really do daily drive this car, hence having approximately 20,000 miles on it. However, last year, what did I have track day wise in this car? I think it was 4 days at the Nürburgring, 2 days at Silverstone, a day at Anglesey. And when I was at the Nürburgring, it just so happened to be the hottest day on German record for that area. And now I'm going to zoom in and show you the condition of these brakes from a very well used and a relatively well tracked car, and then explain, or as the case may be, no need to explain, why I needed to swap them. So yes, as you can see, utterly, I mean, look at that, look at the edge on that. It's completely chunked out, corroded. As a spot of context, the pad section on there is normally, I would say, almost double as thick as that. I'll see if I can poke the camera into my new brake pads, which I had fitted yesterday. That's something else. On the first few laps, I shan't be taking it too hard because you're supposed to bed these in. I did have a 2-hour drive here, so at least they've had some warmth in them, but there's been no real hardcore temperature changes, so I shall be working on that shortly. But another piece of inside information: 4 sets of pads, so front and rear, brake fluid, brake paste, general check over from my Porsche service centre, £1,800 for brake pads. Now granted, because I took it to an official Porsche centre, a good chunk of that was labour. I think around about £500 of that was labour, the rest was parts. However, when I did phone up and say I'm going to need some new pads, they didn't realise that I had ceramics, and they thought that I was going to have to change all the discs and all the pads based on if you had steel discs. Now, as expensive as that was, 20,000 miles and several track days on steels, they said I would have had to have changed all my pads and all of my discs. So as expensive as this was, for the kind of use it's getting, which is fairly substantial. It could have been a lot worse. And also on track, they are just incredible. As I mentioned, when I was on track at the Nürburgring, one of the hottest days of the year on record, they were just incredible. They just took a beating, and the heat that was coming off this system was bonkers stuff. So yeah, I would still thoroughly recommend carbon ceramics from my experience. Less unsprung mass, that's the other thing. When they talk about less weight and less unsprung mass on the wheels, you don't often think about brake pads. These are actually substantially heavy. If you multiply those by a set of 4, that is some weight in themselves. So yeah, all of these components add up, and I think psychologically as well, to know that you have lighter components rather than big, substantial steel ones is a bonus. Anyway, a little bit more insight into setting up for a track day, and then let's hit the track. Okay, not that this is the best location to look at new pads since they've just been fitted, but look at the amount of pad on that pad. It's literally double what I've had from what I was driving just 2 days ago. Actually scares me a little bit that I've been running brakes of that condition. A little bit scary. So we're going to go and bed them in now and just see the difference in what these things feel like. Okay, so because I have a test day at Thruxton tomorrow in the Caterham, I only have my full face helmet, which from a filming point of view is slightly antisocial. And also when this engine gets on full chat and I have a full face helmet, you can't really hear me that much. So yeah, we'll go out, talk you through a few things, and then probably immerse you in a lap without any talking, because quite frankly, the engine sounds a lot better than I do. All right. You know, it's a really magic moment when you roll out of the pits onto Silverstone. These guys have got to check the armbands. You know, even though we're in the pits here, which are the sort of track day style pits, it's still the home of British F1, isn't it? And it's magic. I'll tell you what, the difference in these new brake pads is absolutely colossal. Most of the flat shift function, listen. I mean, that's as quick a shift as you're gonna ever be able to get in a manual car. It's so good. Magic flat shifting. Okay, and then we're going to come back round to where we left off on some warmer tyres. We'll see if we see any more sexy cars on our way round. 9,000 RPM shift in this thing is absolutely sublime. Woo! Down into fourth there. Oh, settle the car, because if you get off the brakes too early there, you can really unsettle the vehicle. hurdles on this are so well placed for heel toe. I have a Revolution race car on my tail that I'll let past. This is the difference between a road car for the track and a race car. I mean, the change of direction on the race car with slicks and downforce is remarkable. Look at him go! Also the difference in weight. I think that thing weighs around about 700 kilograms or something. It is remarkable. Getting in the traffic because you can see what other cars are around. I've got another Revolution race car here. Okay, we've got an Aston Martin track car here as well. Thank you. Phenomenal for a road car. I've got Michelin Cup 2 tyres on right now. I mean, to think what one of these would be like with a set of Cup 2Rs on. Okay, so one of the great things about being in the paddock during a track day like this is a lot of high-end cars. And I like to take a walk around and therefore take you for a walk around to see what's in the paddock while everyone else is on track. What's great is because inherently, if you're at a track day, you're generally into your cars. And not everyone who turns up in their own road cars takes their cars on track. That's why all these trailers are around the place. So the trailers are where the race cars are, and these are often the owners or team support which turn up. So starting with a Giulia Quadrifoglio. I actually had one of these as a support car on the Mille Miglia a few years ago. Now, there wasn't the option in the UK to have a manual gearbox. They were all flappy paddle autos, but the one that I tried in Italy was fantastic as a manual. Sadly, they've now discontinued that, but such a beautiful car. They're still quite rare in the UK, and I love all of the sort of carbon accents it's got on it. This wing flick here, fat diffuser. Yeah, wonderful car. Beautiful Panamera Sport Turismo. Casual 590 or 592 brake horsepower BMW M5 to be specific. This is the non-competition pack. This is a 2018 car. So this was launched before the competition pack, but you know, as a daily and as a sleeper, absolute weapon. I also had the honor of driving one of these on ice, and to be able to jump between four-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive with the Drive Select, fantastic piece of kit. Yes, mate. Okay, I'm only halfway down the paddock and nobody takes the win like a brace of 812 Superfast. How cool is this? We've got black and a satin, I'm gonna say Grigio Silverstone satin. Expectedly, we are right outside the FF Corsa racing team. These guys are based just outside of Silverstone race circuit and look after Ferrari racing teams within the UK. No doubt these two guys are probably friends. They've turned up for a test day or a track session in their 812 Superfast. I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that, does it? And what I particularly like is the paint finish on this 812 Superfast, but the interior on the black car, look at it, so much contrasting yellow, stitching and piping. I think the best of both worlds would probably be the interior from the black car and the exterior from the matte Grigio car. What a lineup, look at that. A 991 911 Turbo S. Now, the last time I saw these, don't get me wrong, they still look fantastic, and if the owner's watching this, your car is wonderful. But it's amazing what the 992 generation has done to the way the 991 looks. I wouldn't go so far as to say dated, but the rear of the 992 has got so much more sculpture and it's so aggressive. But in Guards Red, this looks awesome. An RS6 has to be the paddock staple of ultimate practical cars. Alright, check this car out. I know it's far away and I've got my zoom maxed out, but that is the only Gen 2 Weissach Pack GT3 RS in signal yellow. It looks incredible. Hopefully it doesn't go before I get the chance to get up close to it. Rare sighting, stunning car. Alright, this crew have got a real good collection going on. We've got a Crayon Cayman GTS next to a Ferrari FF, next to an almost Crayon Abarth 595 Competizione, parked behind a McLaren 570S, interestingly running Michelin tyres. You don't often see that on McLarens, casually parked next to a Bentayga. I think you would categorically call that squad goals. Guess what, regular viewers? Rain has stopped play. Imagine that. For anyone tuning in recently, it's somewhat of a ongoing joke on this channel that it isn't a Mr. JWW video unless it rains. And sure enough, it's probably for the best. I now have a drive down to Thruxton Race Circuit. I'm not going on track now. I now have a test day for the Caterham series, which starts tomorrow. Important to do testing to become familiar with the tracks that you'll be racing on, but also importantly to be familiar with the car, get the setup, and just seat time, really, general seat time, in order to improve your experience on track. Anyway, yeah, that was a bit of a quick piece of content just to share with you some of the ins and outs of a track day. It was a short day because, as I mentioned, I'm on a road trip right now. There'll be lots more track time and Nürburgring time coming quite soon, actually. So please let me know in the comments below what sort of content you would like to see from time on track, and I shall do my very best, as always, to immerse you in that. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time. Ciao!